I'm making this video as an expansion of the TikTok I just did, the Spirit Talk, because quite frankly, I need to talk about it. And when I feel this way, like I need to talk about it, it's not like, oh, I have nobody to talk to, so I'm going to talk to YouTube. It's because somebody else needs to hear it out there, because this is not a unique experience by any means. What I want to talk about is feeling lonely in your spiritual world. You can feel strange because you can feel very full within yourself, but sometimes something changes. Like for me, the weather changes. I'm in Kentucky here, and it's getting like the second, the autumn equinox hit. We got this very like crisp, cool fall weather, and so night is a little bit chilly. It's very different. Like the day before, it had been like, I don't know, 95, 100 degrees, super humid, and all of a sudden, bam. And that really affected my mood. And I feel like it's very, how to say this, kind of a survival thing. From somebody who has done a lot of survivalism in their life and was really fascinated by it until I realized that, going to be like a survivalist was for me going to be reenacting trauma, abandonment trauma, and things like that. And there were just, healthier ways that I personally could achieve that coming together of a theme and a learning lesson in this incarnation for me. But once it starts to get cold, on some level, we all kind of look around and we want to make sure that we have our people. Like we want to make sure we have our home and our space and a place to, overwinter. Do we have enough food? It becomes a little bit primal. And for me, I've been reflecting. I'm going to try not to put this perfectly. It's going to come out how it comes out, because these are, in the end, spirit-led videos. I get the call from Spirit. I don't plan these because it's really not on my timeline, and I'm here as a vessel. As many of us are, whether we know it or not, we're here to channel some greater forces. So, what can I say except for sometimes it gets lonely? There are not that many days when it's warm, but when it gets cool, something about it, I just wake up or I look around sometimes and it seems like nobody in my life knows what I'm talking about. And it's not that people don't care, it's not that people don't love me, it's not that I don't love people, and it's not that I don't communicate. And I'm pretty accessible, I'm pretty friendly. But sometimes it's like I just have to be quiet, because I know that I'm experiencing the world in ways that other people aren't. And that goes for all of us. There are always, some ways that we're more individual than the people around us. But, for a shaman, for someone who's so heavily into the spiritual work, and this isn't something, by the way, that I woke up and chose to do. Like, I was born this way and didn't have a lot of direction around it. Maybe you can relate. You were always into these subjects. Something about energy and the cosmos and the universe just made sense to you. And at some point, growing up, a fairly young age, usually, we start to realize that they don't make that much sense to other people. And many of us, myself included, didn't care so much about other people's opinions, but like I didn't want to sit alone for my whole school career. Like I liked people, I liked my friends. And so there was, for me, and maybe for you too, I feel like some of you are nodding your heads again, a little bit of like fitting in, and that's very normal. It's nothing to be ashamed of. We all have to walk that social boundary of what is appropriate, how do we act, when is a time and place to have certain conversations. And when you're always experiencing like deep spirituality, just walking around the gymnasium, like, well, what's the right time for that? A sleepover? Do you call someone on the phone? Do you talk about it right then? Most of us just stuffed it down. And a lot of us got very, very sick doing that, spiritually sick and possibly physically sick. I'm dealing with some physical issues that I know are tied to something in my spiritual life, and I'm working through how to let all that energy flow. There's no finish line. I have students who are like, well, when am I going to be like you? And it's like, I don't know. You're never going to be like me. I'm never going to be like my teachers. I'm never going to be like you. You're never going to be like the person next door. That's not the point. It's like doing homework for school. It's a little segue, but it's like doing homework for school, right? You didn't just, with most of your homework, like put the pen or pencil down and go, wow, I just learned so much stuff. It was an accumulation over time. And, when you got to 7th grade, like you knew more than when you were in 5th grade. It's like that with spiritual homework as well. So the big lightning bolt moments are pretty rare, and they've always come when I least expected them. And that's most people I know. So where was I going? See, loneliness is hard. It can throw you off a little bit, but the spiritual message behind this is that we aren't alone. It's a game. You might be going, a game. It's not a fun game. It's an illusion, really. In this sense, like game means it's an illusion. And the more you get into your spiritual homework, the more that you kind of let yourself out of that box that you might have stuffed yourself into as a young person or younger person, or as a result, or maybe needing to survive. Some people grew up in families where talking about spirituality, if it was not in the context of like Jesus Christ or the church or a very certain denomination, it was absolutely taboo, and there could be some very real consequences to that, overcomable consequences. But I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that not everybody had the freedom I feel like I was granted to explore growing up. I'm grateful for that. But once you free yourself and kind of like open that little box and peek your head, out around the door, you start to discover this rich inner world, and the trees can become your friends. I rarely feel lonely in the world anymore. I don't feel like I'm on the edge of a cliff with nothing surrounding me. I do right now, to be honest, I really am missing having very close people that I can talk to that have a similar experience of the world. And I have some very good friends that I've made over the past couple of years, and it's come about very organically, but they don't live close. These aren't people that I can walk and talk with, go out with, call on the phone. I think I'm missing that best friendship that many of us had in high school, maybe college, and kind of gets waylaid. Sometimes people start families, people are really into their careers, their jobs. I like to be busy, but I do notice, and I'm aware of using that busyness as a substitute for actual human friendships. And it's not a road that I want to at least continue for too long to go down, because at some point you're older, and then you're older again, and the next year, and on and on and on, for however long we're in this incarnation on this planet. What do we do? Who do we talk to? I've never mentioned it before, I don't think, but part of my volunteer and how I serve my community is sitting with hospice patients, here we call it hospice, for 11th hour visits. And that 11th hour is when a person is actively dying, is the term. And it can go anywhere from an hour to a day to a few days, or even longer, weeks even. It's hard to make that call But it's a much better transition, almost always, when there are loved ones, friends, some sort of community that's involved with that person's transition. It's almost, at this point I don't have the words for it, but the energy of those situations is much different. There's still sadness, there's still loss, there's still a grieving, and perfectly normal. But there's not the rattling box emptiness kind of a feeling that you get when you're told that so-and-so has no living kin and no friends or relatives, coming around, not even a neighbor, nobody. And nobody, nobody needs our self-pity, okay? Or our self-pity. We don't need our self-pity. Other people don't need our pity. Animals don't need our pity. Pity is, it's disempowering. It's energetically taking. It's not adding to anything. And, oh, that poor person, that poor horse. It's really a different subject. But it's tied to this in that I start to feel sorry for myself when I start to think, what if nobody's ever around? What if I don't make any sense to anybody at all? Which I know isn't the case, right? Because I have this YouTube channel and people are always more and more sending me messages saying, thank you so much for the YouTube channel. It really spoke to me. Could you do a video about this? Could you do, and we'll put it all there. And if Spirit wants to activate that, sure, do a video on it. But I know I'm not alone. But I miss people. And I wonder how many of you feel that same way. And how many of you are, even on the precipice, because I've been here before and I can get there sometimes again already. The precipice of kind of substituting spirituality for human interaction. And so that is the core and the crux of this video, and really like the feeling that's underneath the I wish I had, somebody who was really on my same page right now, that was close physically and close, to me and all that. But like I said in my TikTok video, and TikToks are really fun if you haven't tried them. I don't know. I find it fun. They kind of lift your spirits a little bit. But I did one on 5 stages of spiritual awakening. And the 5th stage is when your heart and your soul are aligned and you start to really attract all those people that you were looking for in the first place. And it's probably never going to be in the way that you thought. The people I'm close to now, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine. But I love them so much. And they make me so happy. And I watch their work and I watch what they do. And I get to hear little updates when I get to hear them. And I update them too. And I don't know what's right for anybody else's soul path. Sometimes we do need to be alone for a little bit. But thank you for being there. And thank you for watching. The people who weigh in, I really like that. It means something. I wonder about YouTube comments too sometimes. Like, does the person even see them? Do they care? Does it make... It does. If you're not a content creator, know that we put heart and soul into this. Regardless of our production value, regardless of, how much fancy equipment we have or we don't have. This is us sharing ourselves intimately with you. And I can't even tell you the number of times when I used to have undiagnosed anxiety disorder, for example, which I know a lot of you relate to. People with depression, same thing. Sitting up, feeling 100% alone, and you can hit a YouTube channel and suddenly it's a little bit better. And I hope that, I can provide comfort or insight and value to you, some spiritual value here, because otherwise I would not be called upon to deliver these messages. So that's tonight's video. Wherever you are in your spiritual path, keep going. Keep an open mind, keep an open heart, and realize that when we get to a certain stage in our life, walls will inevitably have been built up because everybody's experienced hurt. And nobody really wants to go through it again. Just remember that whatever hurt you in the past is not hurting you right now. And it may be beneficial to take down that wall. Just a little bit. Yeah, I'll have to do it all the way. Take down a layer or two of the brick so you can see over. And just see what you can see. When you put yourself a little bit more out there, see what comes up. And I'm going to do the same thing. Because spirituality is meant to be shared. It's not meant to keep us alone and isolated and, thinking that nobody else gets it out there. It's not true. Especially right now, there is a huge number of people who have gotten this stuff for a long time, and they're just now feeling safe enough to put it out there. And I think the pandemic had a whole lot to do with that, because of the reprioritization, the restructuring of our lives, and the realization that many people had of like, I don't want to go back to work. I didn't like that place. What am I even doing with my life? Hard questions in the moment, but they're leading to some pretty beautiful things. I wish it didn't take a pandemic to do that, but it usually takes something drastic to shake people awake. It's the way humans are wired. Right.